These notes are on IN page 65, and they're on scientific notation. You can find this in the book on pages 208 through 213. And you need to pay close attention to this because scientific notation can be a little difficult. We're just going to learn how to create scientific notation. Eventually, we'll be learning to do some operations with them. But you remember that scientific notation is about writing numbers using the power of 10. So let's look at something that's written in scientific notation. This says 7 5/10 times 10 to the 5th power. The first factor in scientific notation has to be greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 9. So it's got to be between 1 and 9. The number that is the exponent tells us how many places there should be after the decimal. So in this case, there should be 5 places after the decimal. And it tells us how many places we move the decimal to. So if we were going to write this in standard notation, make it a number again, we would have to add 5 places after the decimal. Here's the decimal. We would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it would be 750,000 would be this number in standard notation. Now let's look at how we create standard scientific notation. So the step 1 of it is to move the decimal to find the first factor. And remember, the value of the first factor can be no greater than 9 and no smaller than 1. So looking at this, we know the decimal point is always behind the number. So we have to move this until we get to a number smaller than 9 and greater than 1. So we're going to keep moving this, and so we can stop right here. Now if you will notice, we moved it 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places. Okay? So we're going to drop all of the zeros that hang off on the end. So this would be 4 2/100 times 10 to the 6th power. So you see here we wrote 10 to the 6th power. The 6 came from the number of places that we moved that decimal. Sometimes we will have a number that is under the value of 1. You know, this is, let's see, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions. Okay, so we have 79 millionths. Okay, so again, we have to move the decimal place till we can get to the value of the first factor being 1 or greater and less than 9. So this time we're going to be moving to the right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After the 5th one, we have 7.9. We drop all those zeros. So we have 7 9/10. We've moved 5 places, but we move to the right, so it is a negative number. So it is 10 to the negative 5th. That lets you know that when you are going to write a standard notation, that you have to move towards the negative side. And if you remember the number line, the negative side is on the left and the positive side is on the right. So if it has a negative 5th, you're going to be moving your decimal back towards the negative side. And so the standard notation then would be 0.000079, which is 79 millionths. Okay? All right. All right, let's do your check understanding. In the first one, it asks you to create a scientific notation from the numbers they've given you. And you remember that the first factor cannot be any greater than 9. So we moved this decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 spaces. We always leave in our numbers but get rid of those zeros. So it was 8 9/10 times 10 to the 9th power. The next one, we have to move the decimal to the left. So it's going to be negative. We moved it 4 spaces, so it'd be 6 31/100 times 10 to the negative 4th power. In the third one, the decimals here, we moved it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces. We left in all the numbers 5 559 thousandths times 10 to the 8th power, because we still had to move it 8 spaces. And in this one, which is a little bit tricky, they've already had the powers in there, but we are still we do not have the value that we have to have the first factor as a value of between 1 and 9. So we had to move this 2 spaces to the right, and so it was 9 times 10 to the negative 2. So we take this, we combine 10 to the 12th power and 10 to the negative 2 power, and we got 9 times 10 to the 10th power. Okay? That would be its scientific notation for this. That one's a little tricky, so you'll have to think about it. Now, in the next section, they ask you to take these scientific notations and convert them to standard notation. So we started with 5 94/100 times 10 to the 7th power. So we already had 2 places here, so I only added 5 more zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to make 59,400,000. This one is negative, so we had to move the decimal forward 8 spaces, and I already had 1 here, so I added 7 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros for the decimal point. All right, and so 7 zeros and then 2104, and I'm not even going to try to read that number. And number 7, we needed to move it 5 spaces. This was 1, so I only added 4 zeros, 1, 2, 3, 4, for 120,000. And in this one, again, we had to move in the negative direction. The negative is towards the left. So we had 1 space. I had to add 3 more in to make it 4. And so we have 72 hundred thousandths. Okay? All right, so tomorrow you're going to do page 212, 14 through 28 all, because you need a lot of practice with this. And then we'll be doing another lesson on scientific notation, on how to order them into like terms and how to multiply them. All right, see you tomorrow in class.